Welcome to Let the Quran Speak. I'm Aisha, your host. Today in our series on virtues and vices, we'll explore indecency and modesty. How does Islam advocate for modesty in all aspects of life? How can we deal with indecency that unfortunately has become quite common in our society? Joining me is Dr. Shabir Ally to discuss this further. Welcome to the show, Dr. Shabir.
Pleasure to be on.
So how relevant is modesty in our times? And, we've covered cases like the Ashley Madison hack, just looking at, the way people are choosing to dress these days and even behave. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's more relevant than ever. In a past society in which people were generally modesty and stayed away from indecent behavior, that goes without saying, nobody needs to be told. But in the present age, with all that is going on, as you mentioned, it is more necessary than ever that we convey to our youth the message about modesty, so that our youth have that option and they can align themselves in the direction of decency, away from all of the indecency that surrounds them.
How do we define modesty?
In Arabic, the term that is most associated with modesty is al-haya, which can also mean something like shyness. But it's not shyness of a negative kind that makes a person unable to govern oneself in an assertive manner when that is necessary. So both are there. In the Quran, for example, it is said, "Inna Allah la yastahi min al-haq." God is not shy of saying the truth. And at the same time, there is a hadith which says that when a person turns to God asking God for something, God is shy to refuse that person. So that shows the right balance in that on the one hand, there is a sort of attitude that is called shyness, which says that I am self-respecting and I will do the right thing and I'm ashamed to do the wrong thing. If we take that away, then a hadith says that if you feel no shame, then do what you like. And the hadith says that this is from among the words of wisdom that was conveyed from times immemorial through all of the previous prophets. In Islam, it is mentioned that this sort of shyness is a part of the faith. So it's a balance between, on the one hand, not being bold in committing evil acts, and on the other hand, being shy in refusing to do evil things, but at the same time, coughing up the courage to say a word of truth when this is needed, and even to ask a question about religion, especially dealing with private matters. It is related that Aisha, your namesake, the mother of the believers, said that the women of the Ansar, those women of Medina, are in fact special in that their shyness does not withhold them from asking the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the relevant questions pertaining to matters of the religion, even matters related to private concerns of women.
Historically, do we have, scenarios or situations where prophets had to deal with a community that was quote-unquote indecent?
Yes, a good example of this is the prophet Lut, or called Lot in the Bible. The Quran says that when Lot was preaching to his people, he said to them that you approach a munkar in your communities, in your congregations. So it looks like their evils had reached such an extent that it's not only being done private, but it is done in their clubs. And it's one thing for somebody to do evils personally. In that case, they might still be shy of letting other people know that they're doing evil. But if somebody's evil has come to such an extent, a person has become so comfortable with his or her evil deeds that they're ready to broadcast it to others and to do it in public, then this means that the shyness has altogether disappeared. And of course, when we think about that, we realize how much evil is being done in public nowadays. When movie actors are willing to reveal their bodies on screen and so on to the wide viewership of millions, then it really is alarming. It shows that things have gone to that extent. And then these are the people that we respect. That's the other side of it, that you know, we look up to these as our heroes and models. They are the movie stars. We want to follow up the latest gossip concerning them, and so on. But who are these people, and how, you know, how do they come to acquire such a prominence in our thinking as respectable persons when they're doing so much evil in such an open manner?
Well, so on that note, how can we promote and sort of bring back modesty? Because like you rightly said, it's not even in movies now, but now it's on, like, you see a you know, a subway ad, or it's on the bus, and, you know, kids are seeing this and they're being exposed to it, and we're having situations now where, you know, young girls and boys are trying to act a lot more older. So how do you, you know, practically address that?
Yeah, and I want to add here that many parents are concerned with revisions of the health and physical education curriculum in Ontario, in particular for the grade school kids, because it looks like in many cases the way in which the good bits of education is being put forward to the students will put aside any question of modesty, and everything is being discussed openly, both for good and bad. Education and awareness is good, but at the same time, the manner of presenting that knowledge would have been different in an Islamic setting. In an Islamic setting, those private matters would have been discussed in under separate subheadings, for example, dealing with cleanliness and purity. And
also within separate age ranges, right?
That's right. At the same time, we presented within a context in which modesty is thought, and decency is thought to be the baseline. This is where we begin. But in the public environment, it looks like nowadays decency is not really a question. It's more a question of how do you keep yourself safe? How do you save yourself from contracting certain diseases? It's no longer a question of, like, how do you avoid sin anymore. Because the concept of sin does not exist in the secular society. The concept of sin is a religious one. So Christians, Muslims, Jews, and many others would find great difficulty in the way our children are being brought up in a modern environment. And there is obviously a need for a greater emphasis on modesty. And yes, you mentioned the manifestation of the lack of modesty as is seen in the Facebook and other social media, in the way in which children are governing themselves.
How do you practically deal with that? And maybe we can look at this from the perspective of, you know, Islam as a way of life. We often hear that Islam is a way of life. How does the religion reinforce a modest living and being, not just limited to one aspect of, like, clothing or talking?
It is more important now than ever that people of religion, Muslims, Jews, Christians, Hindus, and others, take stock of what is happening here and try to bring our society in general back to an understanding of the need for decency and the need for modesty and decent behavior altogether.
Maybe just as we wrap up, how do you do that? I know that's a very complicated question, but just generally.
Well, we start with one person at a time. We have a family. We start with our families. We rectify ourselves, rectify our families. It is important for families to get together and talk about these issues together. If you happen to watch a movie together, then you talk about it. What did we like? What did we not like? So that parents can have a chance to steer the thinking of the children in a certain direction, and that has to be gradual. It cannot be all at once, and the attitudes of the children have to be respected in a way. We have to respect the fact that these attitudes are formed through many different influences, many of which we have no control over. And so we do the best we can within that situation. Then we go to the societal level. We try to be active in our society. If there are billboards that are too revealing, then we should be the ones to protest against it, those billboards. You know, if there is something opening in our neighborhood which will actually attract the wrong kind of crowd and the wrong sort of behavior, indecent behavior in our neighborhoods, then we should oppose those things. So communities need to be active, and in this way, one after another, we can change society in a much bigger way than it would be for an individual to do it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shabir. This was a very enlightening conversation.
You're welcome.